What's up, guys, and welcome back to the channel. It's that handy friend again, and as you can see, we have the Jetta in the garage. This is a impromptu video that I had to do because the caliper on this driver's side tire seized up on me. So we're going to be swapping that out in this video, and since this is my first time doing a brake caliper on a car. I've done them on motorcycles before, but my first time doing it on a car, I'm not going to be giving any specifics or any real recommendations. I don't really want to do that in general anyways. I want people to watch the things I do and learn from them, but not necessarily do the things that I do, because I know a lot of the stuff I do isn't 100% and it's not super safe all the time. So obviously, if you want to do brakes on your own car, there's a million videos on YouTube of how to do this, much better than I'm going to make today. But for right now, I'm going to need to jack this thing up and get the wheel off, and we can get started. So before we do that, let's come over here and take a look at what we've got. I went ahead and ordered a new brake caliper right here, and it has the hanger or carrier or whatever it's called. This bracket that mounts in there, and then the caliper mounts to that. If I can get it back together here with one hand, it doesn't look like I can, whatever. And it's got the guide pins on it. And that whole assembly, because you can either get just the caliper or the caliper plus this bracket, and I choose to get them both for this job just because I was worried this might not come off of this as easy as I want. And it kind of gives me more flexibility. That car, as you've seen, is very rusty. So if I can replace this easy, I will. If it's stuck on there and I can't, I'm going to do this. And, you know, it just gives me the flexibility to do what I need. But that comes with some new hardware, this bolt here, which I'm not quite sure what this goes to yet. It looks like it... Oh, that might be the banjo bolt for the brake line. You see the hole there? And then there's a hole in here. So that's... The brake line will clamp on this and feed brake fluid into that hole, and then this will go down into the caliper. So we want to keep that clean. And then it comes with this bag, and it's got 2 copper washers in it. Those are going to go on either side of the brake line. And then this hanger is going to, or this, I don't know, spring clip or whatever, is going to go on the outside of the caliper somewhere. You'll see it when I take it apart. Other than that, I've got some brake parts lube here. I have ceramic brake parts lube. You can get some silicone stuff for these guide pins. I don't have any right now, so I'm going to use this, and if I have to go back later and change it, I will, but I need to get this car on the road tonight. I've got a little bit of brake fluid. I'm not going to be flushing the brakes. I'm not doing all of that. I just want to fill this caliper back up after I pull the old one off. So I'm going to pull the old one off, plug this in, and then there's obviously going to be a bunch of air in here, so it's going to pull brake fluid from the reservoir. I want to make sure I stay topped up. And then I've got some shop towels. And besides that, I'm going to grab a bungee cord in a second here, and then a bucket just to sit on while I work. So let me grab that stuff and we can get into the work. All right, so we got the wheel off, and this is what we're looking at right now. This is obviously our old caliper and everything. So I've got it in neutral right now. Let me try and zoom out a smidge. Got it in neutral, and I can't grab this because this dust guard on the back, but like, this thing ain't spinning. So the first thing I'm gonna try and do is just pop this caliper off. Just to catch you up, I guess. I did already take a stab at this one time prior, and I went to let the pressure off at this nipple right here and see if that would free up the caliper, and I can tell you that it gave me that feeling like it's about to break and start spewing brake fluid all over the ground. So I decided it was better to stop right there, order a new caliper before I got myself in a position that I would have had a car that was broken and leaking instead of just broken. So I am going to try and remove this caliper first and go from there. So I'm going to start by pulling these 2 bolt slide pins out, because those are what hold the caliper on this car. So these are those 2 pins I was just talking about. So yeah, I wouldn't sell this the way it currently is, but all right, I'm gonna have to go get something to pry that off. All right, real quick, I lied. I'm not gonna pry this off just yet. The first thing I'm gonna do is crack my banjo free of the brake line here. I can do that right now while I have leverage on this. If I try to do it after the fact when I have no leverage, it's gonna be much, much, much more difficult. So I'm gonna crack it right now. I'm not gonna take it off because I don't want it leaking brake fluid all over the place, but if I can crack it, there we go. Now it'll come apart later when I want to take it off. A little bit easy, and it also looks like it loosened up the caliper a scotch there. Oh, she's tight. Come on, girl. All right, let me get the old screwdriver on this. Yeah. And I want to be mindful of my brake line right here. I do not want to break my brake line tonight. If I break that, I'm up a creek. I don't have another brake line. So when I pull this way, I don't want to yank it down or anything like that. I'm trying to be a little bit cautious with how I'm handling. Oh, and we're leaking brake fluid already out of that bolt. Let me snug that up a scotch. I don't really want brake fluid all over the ground. This is a great time to mention I have gloves on and eye protection. Brake fluid is extremely corrosive and not something you want to be getting in your eyes. I'll say that. So make sure you have the appropriate safety gear on. I know I do a lot of dumb stuff, but I also try to tout safety whenever I can. And I'm just going to put a paper towel down on the ground for now to soak up any brake fluid that might drop out. But we're starting to make a little headway here. Come on now. Almost, there it is, there it is. All right. And one of the brake pads came off with it. That's interesting. I wasn't expecting that. I thought the brake pad was going to stay in this shoe here. What the heck? Next thing I'm going to do is take these pads out real quick. Just have a look around in here for you know, any kind of rust or grit or grime that could be holding it up. And then I'm going to put just a smidge of grease in there just to help the ears on these pads move back and forth, because if that was causing me any issues. Although, yeah, I can't push that caliper back in there, so I'm pretty confident that's my problem. You know what? I'm not even going to clean this up. I'm just going to replace this whole thing because I got a brand new one. Screw it. Might as well. I'm here. I'm going to use a breaker for this, actually. These are so rusted, I almost guarantee I'm going to need the breaker. Oh, that was really easy. Well, I do prefer it when it's a surprise and it's easy than a surprise and it's hard. I can't count how many times I've tried to take a bolt off and I needed to take a torch to it, or I've broken the bolt altogether. Shouldn't leave my brake pad just sitting here underneath all this collected debris. All right, that's 2. Let's bring this over to the shop bench and see how it stacks up to the new one. We have our 2 pin holes, one there, one there. You see the pins are on this one. We got our 2 mounting holes here and here on this one. Side by side, if we look at like the width, they look about the same. I mean, they look exactly the same, I should say. So that's all good. I am confident that the new part, I keep going low. I'm confident that the new part will fit. So let's go ahead and plop it in. All right. And 2. All right, we've gotten to the point now. This guy's mounted on here nice and tight. we have to take the brake line off of this caliper and put it onto our new caliper. So I'm gonna go snag the new caliper and then we'll do that. All right, so this is a good time to make sure everything is ready to rock and roll. I've got my new caliper right there. My old caliper's right there. I've got my new washers and my new banjo bolt right there. And in fact, I'll go one step further and I'll take one of these washers, stick it on the banjo bolt so it's ready to go. Now all I have to do is take this line off of here, make sure the washers come off here. There's gonna be 2 of those copper washers like you saw with the new one on there. So I'm gonna make sure I get those off of the line, and then I'm gonna get the line put onto this new one with all the copper and everything. So let's see if I can do that without making a enormous mess here. We don't have any of those copper fittings on this thing. It is leaking, so I want to work quick here. All right, that's that. Now I'm just gonna start slathering grease on things. I should clarify, I'm not just gonna like smother everything in grease. I am going to put a thin coat of grease on the surfaces that are metal to metal to prevent squeaks, pretty much. Help them move for them a little bit, but I think they're kind of designed to just work no matter what. I mean, they're brakes, right? If we look at our brake here, these ears are the parts that I'm going to be greasing a little bit so that they can slide around. And I don't want to get any of this on my rotor. All right, that looks pretty good. And I'm just going to do a little bit on the brake pad as well. Just on this inside bit right here. Hope you can see that. I can't see what you can see at the moment. And then I'm going to do a little bit on the back of the pad, just where it's going to contact. So like this area and this area. All right, now I can stick this pad in here. All right, and that's just going to hold it up. I'm going to torque my banjo bolt down to spec next. Yeah, oh yeah, another thing. This whole thing moves. I know it's supposed to slide back and forth on these pins. And the old one was, you know, seized in place, so maybe that's why it wasn't moving. I just wasn't expecting this to move. I do still have to install the newer spring clip that's in this bag. And maybe that'll kind of hold things together a little bit more, but I don't know. It seems suspect that moves so much to me. But this, like I said, is the first time I've ever done brakes on a car before. So let me tighten this one down to spec. We can put that spring clip on and then bleed this caliper. There it is. Whoa. All right, that was a little tighter than I was hoping it would be, but that was the torque spec, so that's what it takes to crush that copper down to make sure there's no leaks. Not a fan, but I also forgot I have to grease these pins and torque them down, so let me do that real quick. Let's try and get this new spring clip on. I mean, that seems like the only way that could go on, but it wouldn't be the first time I put something on cockeyed. So this is just a fuel line that I got running into a bottle. Bottle's pretty lightweight, so it's tipping over right now. I'm gonna get a wrench and crack that open. I'm gonna crack this open. We should see some brake fluid start coming out of here soon-ish. I'm going to open the brake reservoir, see if I can't speed this up a little bit. Well, I missed the shot of the fluid coming out in the beginning here, but I was fussing around with the brake reservoir up at the top. But essentially I had this cracked, and you can see the yellow in the line right here. That's brake fluid. So I'm gonna go give the brake a couple of pumps until bubbles stop coming out, if there's any bubbles in there. And then once that's all done, I can seal it up. There's no more bubbles coming out. So now that there's no more bubbles coming out, I can seal this puppy up. And I'm just going to check my fluid level up at the reservoir. So let's take my big light. Don't mind all the frickin' nuts and stuff. Yeah, so we could use a little bit of fluid in there. So I'm going to put some fluid into there. I'm going to make sure that this drips off into the container there. I don't want this to drip anywhere else. All right, and that's settling us right about the max line. All right, guys, that's it. One caliper replaced. Probably took me 2 hours. I think realistically I could probably do that in an hour, hour and a half if I didn't have to film it. So not too bad. Obviously, plan for the worst, hope for the best. I got really lucky in every kind of aspect of this. I didn't have to worry about replacing bolts or broken lines or anything like that. Like, all my bolts came out, thankfully. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one. And as always, if you liked it, throw a thumbs up at me. And if you're not subscribed, please subscribe. Thank you.